Check that that's working. Yeah, wonderful. Hello, 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 everyone out there in the internet universe. We're about to let on our participants here in the waiting room. Welcome, everyone. Hey, fun audience out there. How you doing? Good to see you. Welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. We're going to get ourselves moving here momentarily. If you're out there streaming on YouTube and Facebook, great to have you here. We will additionally, at some point here, put in some information in the chat on the socials so that you can jump into the Zoom call and be just that much closer to us virtually. You can always add your comments and questions remotely, however you like, and we'll incorporate them. And if you are in the Zoom chat, then there's potentially you can come in and chat with us if you want. Every once in a while it happens, come on camera or audio. No pressure there. But this is Piano Tech Radio Hour. I'll introduce the program momentarily, but just letting people getting settled and set up. I'll take my gum out. I don't need gum for this. All right. Let's talk about what we're doing here today. This is called Piano Tech Radio Hour. And each week what we do here on Piano Tech Radio Hour is it's a Saturday show, and we meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world. This could include manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, all kinds of interesting people that are tangential to the piano industry, and of course, piano technicians, our core audience. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. Find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. You can also subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour. It's just $16 a month, cost of a couple coffees these days, and get direct access to each week's private Zoom call, as well as all the archival recordings of well over 200 episodes in our member area. You can join Radio Hour at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. A couple of quick reminders. Don't forget about our podcast, the audio-only version of the show. You can find that at pianotechradio.com. Also, check out our blog at Substack, pianotechniciansmasterclass.substack.com, where we release snippets of very valuable information. It's only behind our paywall in our member area for the very refined content. We're talking about voicing, regulation, piano history, learn how the piano action evolved over time. Really cool stuff that you don't get access to out there in the general world of education. You can also follow us and keep up with us on social media. You can try Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. We're there. All right, let's intro our very fine guest today over there in the New York area, where my own piano tuning business is, Floating Piano Factory. You're a little bit upstate, a little bit up the river there, but close enough. Her name is Debra Barsha. Very excited for this guest, a powerhouse in the world of music, theater, and composition, a career spanning Broadway, funk, and beyond. Debra has earned her reputation as a pianist, songwriter, recording artist, and storyteller. Her compelling melodies and groundbreaking arrangements have captivated audiences worldwide. Debra's collaborations with legendary artists like Prince, George Clinton, Bootsy Collins, Thomas Dolby showcase her dynamic range and creativity. She has conducted Karen O's Stop the Virgens, and also that being at the Sydney Opera House, and composed the acclaimed song cycle Songs from an Unmade Bed, and contributed to musicals such as Radiant Baby and Prometheus Bound. A true innovator, Debra continues to inspire with her ability to blend genres and create unforgettable performances. Debra, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. And yeah, what a fascinating career you've had. I'm kind of researching you on the web, and I kind of see you popping up there on the Late Show here and there with various, well-known artists doing some very, I feel like a lot of what I'm seeing you doing, it's just, well, that's unique. That's somebody doing something that I'm not seeing a lot of other people do, like conduct a choir. What was the group that you did that with?
Well, that was the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and that was on Letterman in I think Yeah, 2013. That was actually my vocal arrangement. Do you want me to tell you how that came about?
Sure, go for it. Let's dive right into there. Yeah.
All right. So I got asked, Karen O was doing at St. Anne's Warehouse in Brooklyn, was doing this psycho opera at one point. Karen O is the lead singer, if everybody knows, of Yeah, Yeah, Yes. And I was hired to be the music director there and to hire all these women. And um, Karen preferred to have non-singers or singers that could hold pitch, but were not trained singers. So that was, I love like what you said about genre bending and all that stuff, because that's what I love. I love challenges like that. Anyway, we did that there. And that when that was done, uh, Yeah, Yeah, Yeahs were going to do that concert over in at the Sydney Opera House and asked me to conduct it there. And I did. And then while we were in Sydney at the Sydney Opera House, Karen O said, "Hey, the new album's coming out. The album's called Mosquito, but there's a track on it called Sacrilege. And I'm really envisioning a gospel choir at the end of it. Would you be interested in kind of writing an arrangement of a gospel choir at the end of it?" And I said, yes. So I did it and we recorded it. And then it became the single off the album. And we got to perform it at Letterman with this, because I'm also in the theater world, with the Broadway Inspirational Voices. And that was what you saw on Letterman that night.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have to say the one thing I also noticed was you were there conducting, and man, did you had that movement energy as well, you know? And I was like, that is a showbiz person right there that knows you got to bring everything to the stage. It's not just about making the noise. You got to bring the energy, and you were certainly doing that. I was very impressed. You were probably the one of the largest sources of energy on that stage. I really respected that.
Well, I always think of myself as in a role no matter what I'm doing, because I'm also an actor. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to play the role of an intense conductor. So
Yeah,
not only am I literally conducting, which didn't really have to happen because they knew their arrangement from recording it on the album, but I
sure.
said, now I'm in the role of conductor. And after that happened on Letterman, we went on the Jules Holland show. We traveled around doing it. We did Coachella that year. We
Hmm.
got another choir out there, and I would just hire these choirs from all over every time we did it. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, well done. Really good stuff. All right, let's go back to what typically is kind of my first question. Uh, Linking back, where did music enter your life? You know, were you a kid taking piano lessons, or did it evolve later? Was it Suzuki violin? How did this all get started?
Okay. I was told by my mother that once I hit a toy piano, that was the end of it for me. My father also says that he was going in a carriage with me. This is before I obviously walked. And I heard the church bells ring. And I said, "Daddy, what color is the music?" And he said, "I knew I was in trouble then." Because I do have synesthesia.
Oh, I
That's
love that. I want to hear more about that.
Yeah. So he was trying to like answer my question, the color of the music. And he said, "You mean the bells?" And I said, "No, the music, the music." So then when I was about 7 years old, my mom told me that I said, and I don't remember this moment, but I do remember understanding piano from the minute my hands put it on when I saw a piano, I saw the black notes, the white notes. I just was like, I kind of get this. Like I got the spatial relationships and how the tones happen. It was just very strange. I just understood the piano. I liked listening to other instruments, but anyway, I asked for a piano.
Mm.
And my parents didn't tell me. We only had like a couch in the living room, but we got this piano and it was a little Sommer. It wasn't quite a spinet. It was an upright, but it was one of those Sommer pianos
Hmm.
in the 60s. And I got that piano. My mom said, "Well, let me start taking piano lessons along with her just in case she stops." And we didn't waste money on the piano. We both started taking together. And she said within like 3 months, I was like, I don't know, just out of the John Thompson books that they used to start us
Sure.
with. And she couldn't play. And so my teacher at the time, who was my next door neighbor, said, "We have to get her to a real teacher because she's actually got some kind of talent." So
Sure.
that was how it started. And then I went to
Okay.
my incredible teacher, Lois Horn, who's no longer with us. I have to shout her out.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I have to shout out one of my piano teachers. Gosh, what was her name? Leslie? My high school piano teacher. I'll try to think of her last name. She ended up I ended up finding out she was the aunt of a kid that I went to school with as well. But a very quirky lady. She used to wear scarves on her head, and she was kind of thin, and she talked like a little bit kind of. She just kind of had this kind of cute but older lady vibe. And but I feel like she had a New York accent, but she was in Chicago, and just a
Wait, are
sweet.
you in Chicago? Where are you?
I'm in the Chicago area, yeah.
Oh, you are. Okay.
Yeah, but I did live in New York for a while, so I'm very very much familiar with New York.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyways, I'll think of her last name, Leslie. Very very sweet lady, and I think she didn't know what to do with me, to be honest, because I didn't practice. I only composed. So you didn't understand what the lessons were. I just thought it was like a reason for me to play on the piano. So all week I would forget the lesson that we learned, and I would write a song, and then she would say, so, show me, what you progressed on. And I would say, here's the song that I wrote, and I would play it. And they were always weird songs. They were very far out there. And I remember her telling me, oh, okay, you should check out Schoenberg. I was like, what's that? I like went and checked out Arnold Schoenberg, and I was like, wow, she must think I'm writing some really weird stuff here.
Well, that's funny you brought up that entire story because I have a story to match it. I was not practicing at one point because I started writing songs when I was 13 too.
Hmm.
And my mother was like, I'm going to stop these piano lessons unless you practice. So
Hmm.
I just didn't want to practice the normal stuff. I loved Bach. I loved listening to Mozart. I wasn't interested in playing any of the canon of the whole thing that was normal. And I thought I didn't fit in or I was never going to, I thought it was nice, but it was too technical for me. And my piano teacher, God bless her, one day said to me, let's listen to something. And she played me Aaron Copland's Jazz Concerto, and that was it. I was
Hmm.
like, this is what I want to do. Rhythmic changes, time changes, chords. I want to treat the piano like a percussion instrument because that's what it is.
Hmm.
The piano is under percussion. People think because it has strings. No, it's
Hmm.
percussion.
Hmm.
So it's percussion with tone, and that's the way why I like Yamahas. You'll see my Yamaha back here because I needed that crunchy rock and roll thing. I love the classical thing. It's gorgeous to listen to. I'm not interested. But it took
Yeah.
a piano teacher who was really tuned into me. And then from there on, I played the Aaron Copland Jazz Concerto for a concerto competition and I won. And I got to play with the Syracuse Symphony at the time, which no longer exists. And that started me. Then I got into Eastman School of Music, and that was that whole thing. But did I leave Eastman? Yes. I didn't graduate because I went into, just like you, writing songs in the practice rooms. I didn't practice. And I was
Okay.
getting my songs published. So I just
Wow.
like, I gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah. School's kind of like that. Yeah. I mean, s- some of the I remember actually specifically, I went to Rutgers University for jazz piano performance. Great school for that, as well as other arts and things like that. They have a great theater department and visual art and all this stuff. And then you would hear about these people who were over at they Manus, like the New School, some of these places, Manhattan School of Music over there in the city, and the best of them would really only go for a year, and then they just start gigging. If you were kind of like okay, you would just go ahead and finish it out, which is kind of me. I won't. I'm not going to try to belittle myself. I think I'm talented as well, but the folks that were really prodigious, they were in and out. It was just kind of like
Yeah,
a launch pad, a diving board, as it were.
right.
Um, I want to go back here. There's several avenues we can go down. Two that are standing out, which I hope to cover. I'm sure we have plenty of time for this. Is acoustic piano. I want to talk about that a little bit. I want to go back and talk about the synesthesia thing because you didn't know this, but I'm fascinated with that. Let's start with the piano because that's the foundation
Okay.
of the program here.
Yep.
God bless you. You have an acoustic instrument, and we talk about this on this program how you have to be a certain type of person to have an acoustic piano in your home. It says something about you. It says, you have an appreciation for the arts, maybe some appreciation for some sort of refinement, taking things to a certain level, maybe something for a respect for the classic the classicism of some sort. Tell me about why. Why do you have an acoustic piano? Why not just have you? Clearly, you do have digital keyboards.
I do.
Your way
Yeah.
around one, a synthesizer and whatnot with all the funk stuff. But why have an acoustic piano these days? Isn't it
Uh,
just too much of a bother?
well, here is my incredible story.
Yeah.
I have always wanted a Yamaha C3. I like the C3s. I just felt like they every time I played a C3, I was like, yeah, this is it. I mean, yes, the grands are great, but this particular baby grand Yamaha C3 was what I always wanted. It was the weirdest story I can ever tell you. From the time I moved to New York, and I moved to New York in 1978. I mean, I had my Fender Rose suitcase. You couldn't have pianos. You had to put headphones on. Nobody would let you play after 10 o'clock, and I like to write after 10 o'clock. So you were forced, and there was no room for a baby grand anywhere. And then we moved to Brooklyn, my wife and I. And what happened was a friend of mine actually said to me 20 years ago, get ready, my father passed away, and I don't have room in my apartment for this Yamaha C3. Can you hold on to it for me? And all I ask you to do is insure it every year. That's it. And he gave it to me and has never picked it up
Beautiful.
again. He has never taken it back. And we check in with him every time we move. It costs $3,000 to move this thing because you have to really be careful to take the legs off. One time we
Yep.
had to crane it in to an apartment. Every time we moved, we took it with us. And I said, are you sure you don't want it back? No, it's fine. I have no room for it yet. So I actually, like 20 years, have had this piano that I love, and no one has come to pick it up. So we owe this person our lives for this incredible ability to play the C3. We tune it, we insure it, we love it. That's it.
Wonderful. That's great. It sort of reminds me, I'm sure you're familiar with the micro Korg, the little digital
Yes.
synthesizer the Korg makes. It's just a tiny, for those of you who don't know, it's just a tiny little keyboard, probably about this big, maybe like 48 keys or something, maybe less, and just a bunch of different sounds. And it comes with the built-in vocoder. And
That's funny, a
I used to
vocoder.
gig around with it and some other keyboards, and then at one point I went back to school to study the sciences, and I just was like, okay, I'm not gigging. I don't need this thing right now. It's just collecting dust. So I gave it to a buddy. I said, here you go, have this thing. And ever since then, he has just become, he played a little bit of guitar and sang and stuff like that. He has become this like modular synth nerd, and all of a sudden he just opened for some big act that was, I feel like it was somebody from Depeche
So
Mode
you
or something
were
like
on
that.
the other end of it.
On the other end of it, yeah. It's
Yeah,
wonderful when those
that's
things find their home.
yeah, and just this is like, and we check in with him all the time, and he's like, no, this is what I gave you, and I was like, I'm just so fortunate.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. Anything else? Let's talk a little bit more about the piano, and then we'll get into
Okay.
some of the other stuff.
Well, I'm
What
on an
about?
endless search all the time to when I played keyboards, you mentioned a little bit. I've played keyboards in 3 Broadway shows. One was I was the associate conductor, key 1 player in Jersey Boys, and that was a long running show. That we used. I'm not going to talk about the electric piano we used and the electric synths that we used, but I've always been on a quest that the action has to be as close as it can. Otherwise, you're going to get carpal tunnel when you're playing rock shows. You just are, because your
Sure.
velocity sensitivity. You have to get a keyboard that has velocity sensitivity and that has wooden keys with the plastic above. So we
Mm.
finally found. We made the person. Actually, he made us. He made the producers get the right keyboards for the Tina Turner show on Broadway, because we were playing real rock, and I dig in when I play rock. And so we found incredible keyboards for that. And then for Donna Summer, we really didn't, and people were getting carpal tunnel again.
Mm.
But it's like, if you're not going to use an acoustic piano, you better get as close as you can. And they're more expensive, but the wooden keys are really important.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
know.
that's fascinating from a what would you call that? Occupational what do they call it? Occupational
Occupational
safety
therapy. Yeah.
therapy perspective. I never thought of it from that perspective. Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense. Um, how about your relationships to caring for the piano? Any some people have they find some piano technicians they really connect with. Some people just have somebody in and out. What's been your experience with caring for the piano?
I think I got the piano. My wife is upstairs watching this. There's Kim down there. Hi, Kim. I see you.
Kim.
I got the. I think I got the piano regulated. No, that was my upright Yamaha. I also had an upright Yamaha. I'm a Yamaha person. I just like them.
Sure.
Yeah, I had my Yamaha regulated, but I haven't had to regulate this one for some reason. But I do have when my guy comes in the summer and winter, he always tells me that I should get a humidifier. But you know what? I just haven't done it. I know people say you're supposed to do it and the whole weather thing, but my piano, I mean, it's vaguely out of tune now. Not really. Let me see something. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah,
Not too bad.
It's not too bad, but the lower end is a little out. But yeah, so I usually have I definitely get my piano tuned every, I would say, 4 to 6 months.
Sure.
No matter what,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what other people do.
Good for you. Good for you. We won't riot. We won't riot against you then.
No, every 4 to 6 months, and it's expensive. It's a little bit more expensive now, but there you don't find. What do you do with your company? Do you recommend 4 to 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, we always recommend. 6 months is kind of the sort of go-to. How often should you tune your piano? Just for anybody that has one, and then for musicians, of course, you could get it tuned as often as you like, right? A little bit more often if you want it to, to sound better. And also to just do the other things regulated. The more often we come, the more we can work on some other things like regulation and voicing and, just making sure all the screws are tight and everything's functioning properly. But in practice, the average piano owner, if we can get them tuning it once a year, that's pretty amazing, and then we do have those clients. I actually have clients who we've been around, New York long enough that they tuned their piano 10 years ago and they're like, okay, well, we'll get another tuning now.
That's crazy. That is crazy shit. Okay. Yeah. And I go to my mother's piano and I said, Mother, you better get that piano tuned. I'm going to call the tuner because when I come home, that's my childhood piano and I want my childhood piano tuned.
Yeah.
But it's, you know what? That little Sommer thing, that really holds a tuning pretty long. It's kind of like incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, let's talk. Okay, so I'll put a pin in something else.
By the way, hello to my sisters out there.
Hello to your sisters.
Janice and Cynthia are my sisters.
They want to make a comment, they can. Where you can invite them to take over the show whenever you want. I'm pretty loose with the with the reins. I would say. But yeah, thanks for joining.
Oh, and my sister Amy is there too. I didn't notice. There's 3 sisters here.
That's amazing.
Amy, Cynthia, and Janice. Sorry to interrupt. Okay, go ahead.
I love seeing the family support. I mean,
I know.
I can't. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I mean, my siblings, we talk, but I don't know that they would show up to this program.
I didn't see Amy there. I'm so happy. Okay.
Okay. I want to talk about synesthesia because I just love that topic. And I don't know if we'll get to it, but you said you moved to New York in what, 1970 something?
78. And I played in piano bars. I think that's the thing. People go with their little, they don't have acoustic piano in piano bars anymore. And I went all around New York City to every acoustic piano bar. And I played, that's how I was working on Wall Street as a cold caller. And at night I would just go home and I would go to my little piano bar that had happy hour. I played all the happy hours in New York City. Had my little tip jar, the whole thing. But I wouldn't play oldies. I would play what was on top 40 AM radio. So that's why I got this reputation for like, oh, you want to come in and request Billy Joel or request, whatever was on top 40 radio at the time.
Yeah.
And I learned all those songs. So I would go in there and just play all those on acoustic pianos all over the city.
Wonderful. Well, what a great time to be in New York. I feel like, I mean, nowadays I lived in New York for a while. Of course, it was wonderful, but I feel like that time, those transitional times, like the 70s, the 80s, and like when I love thinking about, just probably a little bit before that, but folks like, do you know who Jim Jarmusch is? Like an independent filmmaker.
Yes, Jim Jarmusch. Didn't he do what movie was very, very famous that he
He did
did?
Coffee and Cigarettes, Broken Flowers,
Yes,
Night
Jim
on Earth.
Jarmusch.
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually ran into him on the subway one time. It was pretty cool. But he was hanging around with like Basquiat and like,
Well, that's
uh
Keith Haring. I wrote that musical about Keith Haring. Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. What a time. What a time. All
It
these
was a
creative
great time.
people hanging out, and there's no, they're not making any money, you're just kind of being creative and, just building something spectacular. Um so okay, I want to come back to that though. Let me tell you why I'm fascinated with synesthesia. So I studied music. I went to Rutgers University. I'm studying jazz. And for some reason along the way, I just started to get little inklings I started to be interested in neuroscience. Um, and I don't know, I didn't tell you this. Some people know this, some people don't. But I actually went on to study neuroscience. But my angle into it was a couple of directions.
Uh-huh.
Remember when my mother had dyslexia and she would talk about her brain, and she also had epilepsy as well. So I heard a lot about kind of the brain and its health and how it functioned things as I was growing up because of
Right.
that stuff. But then a turning point for me when we talk about practice, I didn't know how to practice. And my teacher, bless her heart, she had the things for me to practice, but it actually didn't make it. When you talk to kids, you got to be super clear. It wasn't clear how to practice even, right? Like, what do I do? What does practicing entail? Is it playing it? And I started to study how to practice in college. And there's a book called Playing Piano for Pleasure, which was written by a journalist that got to interview a lot of famous players, so you learn a lot. But basically, what I learned from that is that knowing how the brain works helped me know how to practice, right? Knowing how the brain makes connections helped me understand you need to play things slowly, or you need to connect, one little piece and then add it to this little bigger piece and then connect this to a bigger piece. And then as I started to research it more, I found some books about synesthesia. And I was fascinated with perfect pitch, and that would come up. People with perfect pitch often have this synesthesia thing. So for those folks who don't know, synesthesia is when there's a cross-domain activation between two different senses. It doesn't have to be auditory, visual. It could be taste and sight, or taste and smell, or whatever. And there's various theories on why this happens. But basically, it sounds like what's happening to you is that you're having the auditory and visual, maybe some other types of synesthesia, but you literally will see things that other people don't when you hear sounds, right?
All keys, all notes are colors. And
Wow.
I thought everybody had it. And I don't even know if some people would see a B flat chord as a royal blue like I do. I don't know. Maybe they see it as red. I don't know what they see. But I know that all keys and all notes have colors. They always have. F sharp is forest green, G is purple. The keys have colors. That's the only way I can explain it. It's not that I see the colors in front of my face. In my brain, I see the color. So
Right.
if I'm playing in that key, like E flat is one of my favorite keys to write in because it's this tannish red that makes me feel like warm. So it's like,
Is it like a burgundy color almost, or?
yeah, it's a little bit more tan than that. If I could
Okay.
find something in the room. But I also want to show you something very interesting that you brought this up. So when I was teaching kids and they had
Mm-hmm.
dyslexia, here's my Brahms
Mm-hmm.
book. I realized that what they were having problems with, because you talked about dyslexia,
Mm-hmm.
is translating left and right with the staff that goes up and down. Why wouldn't it be confuse the hell out of people?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'd take the kids and I'd have them read it this way.
Oh,
Because
okay.
if you turn it,
Then
then
it
you
actually makes sense.
yeah, then you see that the left hand is the bottom hand, I called it, and the
Yeah,
right hand is the top hand. I mean, it's really hard if you think about it. You're making your eyes go this way,
right.
and the notes are spatially this way.
Yeah,
So if you just rotate the music,
yeah.
then it corresponds exactly. And then they saw it, not.
Mm,
I really wish they should make books for dyslexic kids because they always tried to pretend that they were reading it, but they would memorize everything.
mm.
So I
I
thought,
never
wow,
really even thought of that. Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah. Anyway, so the synesthesia. So, and you know how when you're teaching kids, I don't know if you've ever taught, you say to them, like, okay, that's happy, that's sad. And then
Sure.
I say, what's that? Isn't that scary? And then
Hmm.
I'll do it like augmented is always the hardest for them, and I say, isn't it like you're reaching for something, and I try to do all that stuff, which is synesthesia adjacent,
Yeah, yeah.
but those all have colors to me, those types of chords too. And I don't
Hmm.
know if you have this, but if you hear, is the world music to you? Where like if you hear a plane, like, okay, that's like a note, or if you hear a vacuum, you're like, what chord it is, or if you hear like,
Not so much. Here and there, I'll have little experiences like that. Yeah. Or
but
like
I
I'll hear
do,
something and I'll be like, "Oh wow, that's like a sharp nine chord or something." It's fascinating.
right.
It's not as common as I'm sure it is for you. Yeah.
For me, how I learned to play music,
Hmm.
I mean, to the songs on the radio, like Elton John was my hero because I recognized he was doing like thirds and fifths in the bass, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and that was never in the sheet music. I would go to the store and get an Elton John song, and I go, "That's not the right chord. The record
Mm.
sounds like this." And
Hmm.
to me, a chord with a third in the bass is very different than a root chord with a root in the bass.
Hmm.
And you could feel it. You feel the lift, right?
Hmm.
So I was like, wait a minute, they're just simplifying what's on the radio. So I would go in with my little 45s and my little record player, and
Hmm.
I would really get the licks the way they were.
Hmm.
And as far as pop music, Elton John was kind of like the guy because I was classically trained, but it was pop music, where Billy Joel
Hmm.
was more jazzy at that
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
But it wasn't really a female. I mean, Carole King was there, but that was, she was kind of accompanying herself. She wasn't really playing, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And so I looked up to a lot of the male artists of the time in the 70s for that.
Hmm.
But anyway,
Yeah.
how did I get on that subject? From
Synesthesia. We got
synesthesia.
that from synesthesia.
Right.
I'm fascinated. This, and I think some people when they first hear about this, they're like, "Oh my gosh, this person's crazy." And it's like exactly like you're saying, like you just think everybody else is crazy because it's very natural, right? I want to hear. I'm very curious, just from a just from the perspective. I want to hear what it's like. I want to sort of visualize what you visualize. So, and if you're at home there, maybe we'll take a minute and you come up with your guess for this before Deborah says what it is, and
Okay.
I'll come up with mine too. I just want to play this game, and I'm curious if there's any alignment or not. With just I'm gonna say like notes, and you say the color, but I'm gonna
Okay.
try to pretend I have a color, which I don't, and just see what comes up. Okay.
I
Okay.
love it. It's like I'm a musical guinea pig.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. So let me come up with C first. And if you're at home, I'm curious. You come up with something.
I
All
already
right.
know what C is, but
Of
go
course.
ahead.
You know what they all are. Of course. Gosh, what do I do? I'm gonna go. Oh gosh. Okay. So what was your C?
Me,
What is? Yeah.
my C is always reddish.
Okay. I that was one of my ideas. I came up with the sky blue. All right. C sharp. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. What's your C sharp?
C sharp is it's odd because let me tell you something about synesthesia.
Hmm.
Every letter not associated with music also has colors.
Yes. Yeah. For some
Okay,
people. Yeah.
for me, so all numbers have colors.
Hmm.
Okay. So when I get into the sharps and flats, I'm actually looking at the symbol. The pound symbol or the sharp symbol is black. So what happens is the C is red, and then it adds a little touch of a darker red in there. Then we go to D. D is pinkish. E flat is the tan color I told you. And
Hmm.
then for some reason, like people have perfect pitch to an A, I've got perfect pitch to a G sharp. I can hear a G sharp anywhere in the universe. I know when I hear a G sharp, oh, that's a G sharp. It's very strange. I'm not always right with an A, but I'm always right with a G sharp. G sharp resonates. That is like, that's my note. I can't explain it. I know this sounds crazy.
Yeah. So, but now, so if you see the letter C on the page, is it also read as that?
Yes.
So they're the same. The letters are the same as, in terms of the sound, triggers the same visual as the actual letter does when you read it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is true. I used to say, but their feelings are associated with colors too. My sisters will probably remember that when we'd go over bumps in the car, I'd say, my stomach just turned yellow. Cynthia, anybody out there, my sisters, remember that? I say, my stomach is yellow, because I always had a color with feelings too. So I just wondered if anybody remembered that.
Yeah. But you made a good point when you brought it up earlier, is that everybody has some synesthesia with these sounds. I mean, that's why we like music, right? It triggers our emotions. It doesn't necessarily trigger, and if you really try to think about it, like, it makes sense to us that, oh, we listen to music and it triggers our emotions. But if you were to just kind of say, add some other random thing, like you see different types of tree and it triggers your emotions in different ways. Yes, there's something subtle there. Be like, that's kind of weird. But the fact that you would have these combinations of sounds that would trigger emotions is not intuitively makes sense that would happen.
Like even though for whatever reason, I know it's all white notes on the piano, but it is a very white key to me.
Okay.
B flat is blue of different shades. B is a brighter blue. It's a lighter blue.
Okay.
There are things like that. A flat is beige. And then, I mean, it's weird. It's like, that's how I don't have perfect pitch, but I can feel the color. I kind of see the color. So I'll often say to my wife, oh, was that a D just now? Let me go check and see if that was a D. And I'll run into the piano. If I hear somebody singing or something, like, oh my God, what note did that person just hit? And I'll pretty much be a half step, or, I'll be close. But I don't have perfect pitch.
Go back to, and we'll probably get off this soon, and people who aren't as fascinated.
I know people might think like, we're insane. Right? Okay.
But I just, one more thing I just want to compare and contrast. Which chord was Forest Green?
F sharp major.
Okay, so F sharp major is Forest Green. And the note F sharp, is that also Forest Green, or is the
note F sharp is pretty much Forest Green?
Okay. What about F sharp minor?
F is more like a not a forest green. It's more like it's the green of my car. What's it called? Army green. Not really forest green.
Okay.
But it has to do with the F and the F sharp. You're right. It has to do with the letters.
Okay.
Oh my God. Are we boring people? This is crazy shit for I hope we're not. Hi, Bill Clayton. How are you?
Bill's here every week. He's not bored, I don't think.
Look at all these people. Todd Harris, Stephen Becker. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
You're not related to Alice and Janney, are you? No. Okay.
No, I don't believe. I mean, maybe distant relatives. But mine was, my grandparents came over. It was Janowitz when they came over. So
like Tama Janowitz.
Maybe. I don't know who that is.
My mother is here now. Hello, Mother. Anyway.
The whole family.
The whole
family.
It's
like an early Christmas. Do you celebrate Christmas?
Well, we celebrate Hanukkah, which is on the same day of Christmas. But we kind of celebrate both because our partners and our family are mixed everything.
Sure.
So.
All right. All right. Let me see here. Because we just we dipped our toe into New York in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Okay. Well, like I said, I was doing piano bar, and then this guy found me in the piano bars. He was a Broadway director. His name was Joe Layton. And he said, oh my God, you write songs, you play the piano, you're a singer, you're an actor, you're, this and that. I really want to kind of take you out of these piano bars and kind of make a cabaret show for you. I still stayed on acoustic. It was still the early 80s. Every really cool piano bar place and cool cabaret place had baby grand pianos. So I was still on acoustic piano all this time. Synths were just coming in, really to the recording. It was after the 70s rock period. In the 80s was disco, and then it was all synths and everything. And but I stayed on the acoustic piano. I kind of stayed true to it. And that was when I started realizing that I love Yamaha pianos. I really should have written to Yamaha and had them rep me, because I only wanted to play Yamahas from that point. But anyway, he took me out of the piano bars, and he kind of did cabaret acts for me. I got a record deal at that time because I was writing songs with Columbia Records. That's a long story. And then I started going out to LA and doing stuff. And then this is when in 1983, was it 83? Yeah. Thomas Dolby contacted my friend Joy Askew, who was the keyboard player for Joe Jackson. Remember Joe Jackson? I don't know if you remember these people, but she couldn't do the tours, and she recommended me. And I thought, oh my God, Thomas Dolby, the king of keyboards, is going. And I was a fan. I loved She Blinded Me with Science. I don't know if you remember that song.
Oh yeah, that one's awesome.
Yeah. And so he
80s, so like quintessentially
so,
80s, so amazing.
So you'll appreciate this, to the musicians out there that are nerdy. I transcribed the audition that Thomas was flying over from London to New York. He had to go on tour quickly. And he told me certain songs he wanted me to learn, and I had transcribed them. I transcribed them completely because I just wanted to be able to get it right. And I said, oh, I couldn't quite hear this bass note right here. He came into the room and he said to me, I don't read music. And I said, what? Because he was so technical and everything fit together so beautifully. But I guess at that point was like the beginning really of home studios. That is really the beginning. I was singing jingles. People still had, were hiring people to go into recording studios that weren't home studios, only if you had a lot of money, Yeah. Anyway, so he saw music as shapes. It was interesting. I said, what are you talking about? Well, I don't read. I said, well, how do you label chords? He goes, well, I can call a chord, but I'd rather show it to you what I want you to play, like in She Blinded Me with Science. And it was that CP80 or CP60. What was that keyboard? It was Yamaha, but it was a simulated, like
was
you said,
electroacoustic, like it had an acoustic portion. Yeah.
And that's what I played.
Maybe, yeah.
I played on that tour. I played that piano. And
those
I
are
sang.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, those were cool because the action was pretty good on those. But he was playing a Fairlight, and he was playing all these other sampled instruments, and so then from Thomas Dolby, when I came off tour there, then George Clinton saw me from P-Funk, Parliament Funkadelic, with Thomas Dolby, and that is how I got to do like 5 albums with George Clinton. And that was the beginning of like everything for me. And at the same time, I was writing musicals. So it's what George Clinton dubbed me, which is Broadway meets funk. That's what you are. You're Broadway meets funk.
Nice. I mean, that's really amazing, to that kind of trajectory as well. And when you got into the sort of world of funk,
yes,
were you already playing that style, or was it just like, okay, this guy wants me to play, so I'll get into it? Yeah.
No,
you were into it.
I loved funk, Tower of Power, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I was really into funk because I love grooves. The thing that I played before, like when I was here, I'll try to show you.
Yeah.
When I write this groove that on paper, if you dissect it, it's a bunch of 16th notes, and it goes like this. But if you play it funky up to tempo, so when I write like that, some people wouldn't get the groove. They'd play da 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 da,
Right.
and you have to really like understand the space. Funk
Mm-hmm.
is about the space for me. And when I was trying to get the singers to sing faster than the speed of life is going fast, they would go faster than the speed of life. No, it's faster than the speed of life of life. And so it's like it's a groove. I don't know if you can teach groove.
Yeah, you've got it in your blood there.
You either have it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to dissect it. You mean of a life? But you're saying, yeah, I'm just putting a little faster than the speed of life, of life. I'm not going of a life. You know what I mean? It's like, so George recognized P-Funk. George said funk is anything it needs to be when it needs to be that thing.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds about right.
You get it. You get it. So I am a funky piano player that likes, I'm not as technical as some people would be. When people hire me for piano, I'll say, are there a lot of 16th note runs? And I have to be, because I don't want to do it. I just know what I can do. I know what I can't do.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that I have time, like in conducting, like I can pick out 90 pretty much in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
There's 90 probably. You can check back and see if that was 90. But I've always felt time too. There's something about time that I just think is spiritual as hell. I think groove and time is spiritual. I really do.
Okay. And when you say felt time, you mean like the rhythm of the time, like the distance between the tickers of the metronome,
like the metronome, like 90 beats per minute or 92. This is it's right about there. And somebody challenge me if that wasn't 90 or 92. Let me know.
We could do it. We won't take the time for it, but yes, somebody can do that post. Well, it's interesting too. I'll give you some piano tuner nerd out here. So, when we first start to learn to tune the pianos by ear, we listen for two notes together having a beat rate, which most people aren't aware of. But
I don't. Yes, I love that. Like even this, I can tell it's good. It's not even in tune with itself. But you're saying you do two notes, like a third. What do you do? A fourth or a fifth?
Play an F3 and an A3 together.
Okay. F3 and A3?
Yeah. Yeah, and you got a
yeah.
Can you hear that?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Or do the F2 and the A3. That'll give you better. A little slower.
Yeah, that's slower. Yeah.
So we listen for those beat rates, and that actually tells us mathematically whether we've got the right ratio between the pitches. So you have to learn to hear like 7 beats per second, 8 beats per second, 9
So
beats
you
per
don't
second.
do it with a tuning thing. You teach them by ear.
Well, the first note that you get a pitch source reference like a tuning fork. But then after that, you listen to the different intervals and how they sound and the different beat rates between them. And so one you might I might get this wrong. You have 7 beats per second, which I think that's somewhere around, if you put your metronome at like, I think that's 109, and then but you do it 4 times per beat or whatever. I think it's about 120. The rate of 120 corresponds to one of these regular beat rates if you multiply it by 4. So like, the kind of like the 120 beats per second.
Yeah, that's why they did disco octaves at 120. Because you can dance. That is it. That's the 120. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's exactly how I remember that. Is like, it's like staying alive, right?
Yes. It's exactly right.
Yeah. But yes, it's interesting that you say that too, just for the other, just basic rhythmic divisions and going, well, that has a feeling to it, and it also has, you can pair the feeling with the groove as well, right? Because like if I have 120 for Bach as opposed to disco, of course it's going to carry a different feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's great. Thank you for sharing about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to get nerdy a little bit with, I have
Please.
to tell everybody who's a musician out there, just, I literally feel like the circle of fifths is like godlike.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I just think the circle of fifths, if you can get people, it's like Helen Keller with water, with the hand under the water. Until that point, she knew if she made these little things that she'd get a doll. But all of a sudden, she put her hand on the water. She realized, oh my God, this thing that I'm doing means that this is what the thing is. That's the circle of fifths. That is it. If you can hear it and you hear how each key goes to each key with the seventh, and I mean, it's just, come on. I mean, you're just moving around
Mm.
and you can hear it all. I
Mm-hmm.
try to teach my kids to play a melody in every key so they can feel the spatial and the oral aspect of hearing the same thing in the concept of keys. Do you think in keys?
What do you mean,
Do you think if
when?
you're playing a piece and you see the key signature,
Mm-hmm.
are you thinking in E flat, thinking in B flat, or are you just reading the music?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean the notes of the scale then become sort of in my head
Yes.
and things
So
like that.
that is but people like my wife, who's a trumpet player, never was taught to think in keys because it's a
Mm-hmm.
melodic instrument.
Sure.
And what I love about the piano is it's a harmonic instrument. It's polyphonic. And
Mm-hmm.
it really is the key to everything, you know? Everybody should learn the piano, even if you're on a melodic instrument.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're resonating something. I don't know if this happens for all piano tuners, but there is a certain, I don't know if you could call it as simple as like a fascination. You could go as deep as some sort of spirituality, but there's some sort of, wow, oh, wow. You know, especially when you start to study, there's something called the Pythagorean comma. Are you familiar with this? This is probably
No, but it sounds like something I want to
I
know
tell you
about.
about the Pythagorean comma. Okay, this is exciting. So,
Please.
so this is the weird thing about the circle of fifths, which you may or may not realize. So these days we tune our pianos to what's called equal temperament, so
Yes.
that the distance between each pitch of a half step is basically the same, right?
Right.
Although it's just going up in the pitches. So you know that if you take a string, right, of a certain length and
Yep.
you divide it into thirds,
Yep.
right, and you play the part that's a 2/3 long as the
Right.
original, then you'll get the fifth,
Right.
right? So if you go 2/3 of that string length, you get the fifth above. Well, if you go 2/3 of that, you get the fifth above that, right? If you go 2/3 of that
Wow.
next string, right? That's the circle of fifths. It's dividing the strings into these portions of three, basically, right?
Right.
Now, what's weird about it is it they the circle of fifths comes back on itself, right? It's like it's a circle,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, right. It's a
It
circle.
goes
Right.
back to the original pitch.
When you're
But
going around like I did, that was counterclockwise. That was the other way.
yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But the weird thing is it doesn't make a circle when you divide the strings into thirds.
Oh, shit.
From a physical perspective, the physical universe of it is actually, it gets close, but it is not as heavenly as you actually would think. There's this thing called the Pythagorean comma, which is a mathematical fact, the difference between what you would think the circle of fifths would be and what it really is in the physical universe, right? So it's actually, there's the circle of fifths is like a construction of ours.
I
We
know. I
want it
know.
to we want it to fit into this
But we
neat
want it
package.
to resolve.
Yeah,
We hear it as resolving.
yeah, yeah. But it's actually not as exact as you think. We make it exact by doing equal temperament, but in order to make equal temperament, you have to make it unexact by a little bit for each fifth.
Yeah, you may be hiring me as a piano tuner, very soon
I
because
captured you.
you got me now. And that's really interesting. But,
But that
we're
kind of
only
messes with
talking,
your head there.
you
Yeah,
know what? We're only talking, though. To be fair, other countries have microtonal scales.
sure. Yeah,
And here we are talking about half steps and whole steps. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's like there's a myriad of pitches between a C and a C sharp. If
indeed.
you're in other cultures and other
Yeah,
instruments. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Um, wow, it's a pleasure to be hanging out with you and exploring all this stuff. And we can go a few minutes over. We usually like to just keep it to an hour. Um, I don't know. I mean, there's so many little places we could go in this tiny bit of time, but is there anything you would like to play? Like we got you like doing little samples. You don't have to, but do you want to play a piece or before we roll out
I have a
or
Christmas
like
song. Maybe I should play a Christmas song.
let's do it. Let's get
I don't know how
Christmassy.
well you're going to hear me singing, but I wrote a
As is
Christmas.
typical, the Jewish people will give us our Christmas music.
No, I wrote a Christmas song with my friend Holly Levin. I'll try. I don't know if you're going to pick up my voice, but
Yeah,
it's called Quiet Christmas. Let me see if I can make this a little bit so you can
yeah,
see my
perfect.
hands.
You got it.
All right, here we go. In my favorite key of E flat.
Okay.
Snowflakes dancing in the gray blue sky. The smell of cedar in the air. A decorated tree in every window. The sound of carolers everywhere. I finished all my shopping, braved the long lines at the mall, stuffed the stockings, hung the mistletoe out in the hall. Let's leave the parties to our friends, why not just us two? I'm in the mood for a quiet Christmas with you. The morning sun will rise up over rolling hills. I'll be wrapped up in your arms without a care. The little elves, the night owls, and Santa Claus, long gone unto our next affair. And as the years go by, we'll look back and reminisce. The best of all my gifts will be your sweet and tender kiss. We owe it to ourselves, 'cause after all that we've been through, I'm in the mood for a quiet Christmas with you. Let's stay up beside the fire on the floor. Let's stay up as long as we're together. We don't need more. We owe it to ourselves, 'cause after all the world's been through, I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood for a quiet Christmas with you.
All right. Wonderful. What a treat. What a treat.
Thank you. There's my
Yeah.
Christmas song for everybody.
Yeah. That's the thing about someone like you. You make it look so easy. Your singing's well done and you got the whole arrangement and it makes everybody you see somebody like yourself do all that and you're like, I'll sit down and I'll play and I'll sing. I'm like, ooh, I need to practice. You
I
make
always
it look
thought of
easy.
I like to accompany other people, but also there's a thing about accompanying yourself. If you're singing, don't just play, play an arrangement, for yourself. Anyway, that
Absolutely.
was my little Christmas gift.
I
I don't know
love
if you,
that.
you heard my voice enough or anything,
Yeah,
but this,
it was a great mix.
oh, look, my harp just played. I can give myself applause.
There you go. Wonderful.
That's my roadcaster. Okay.
Well, that was very appropriate. Um, okay, well, we'll wrap up soon. We'll keep in touch and keep track of what you're doing. It's all wonderful, spectacular stuff. Before we roll out for the day, where would you like to send people to keep up with what you're doing? Any last final words of wisdom or anything you want us to part with?
Yeah, if you see somebody with musical talent, tell their parents. That's number one. If you really see a kid and you go, oh my God, the parents go, oh, like I saw my cousin and he was a little French horn player and he played in pitch, had perfect pitch, but and he turned out to go to Juilliard. Don't ever see somebody who is a child with talent and not encourage them, thinking they can't make a living at music. I'm a musician with a pension. Okay?
Right.
I'm a musician with a pension because I had to do what I had to do. That's number one. That's what I'm leaving with. If you want to see, I'm on Instagram as D Barsha. You notice that I'm Barsha here because everybody in the music community and theater calls me Barsha by my last name. But it is Debra Barsha, Debra. If you're doing a search on me, go to either Instagram D Barsha or my website, which is debrabarsha.com. And pretty much you can see that stuff. And to keep up with me, I guess I'm on Facebook too. And,
Wonderful.
yeah. And
Great.
thanks to my family again, my mom, my sister Janice, my sister Cynthia, my sister
Love it.
Amy, Martha Barsha is my mother. And thank you, Ethan. It was really great to be with you.
Absolutely.
And
I
my
want
wife,
your,
Kim. Hi, Kim.
okay. Can I have your family? They're so supportive. This is
They're
wonderful.
really, really, really supportive. My
That's
family's always
great.
been supportive.
That's wonderful. I
Amy
love
just put a heart on there. Yes.
it. Excellent.
And
All
Bill
right.
Clayton, thank you for being on camera the whole time.
Yes, Bill. We love you, Bill. Thanks for being here. Absolutely. All right. I will walk us out here. We've reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Again, thanks to Debra Barsha for joining us today. As always, we're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclass, cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. If you joined us by signing up for this session individually, make your life more convenient. Subscribe to PTRH, $16 a month. Recordings in our member area, automatic registration for each cool session like this. bit.ly/join PTRH, bit.ly/join PTRH. Check out the audio only versions of this program as a podcast, pianotechradio.com. And our Substack, of course, with our blog and all of our socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And will this be our final show for we'll probably have one more. We'll have one more. I don't know if it's going to be a rebroadcast or something, but we'll probably do one more next week. That'll be our last one. So I hope you guys had a lovely 2024. Thank you for spending this time with us. And here's to planning for a wonderful 2025 as well. All right, we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.